everybody, and welcome to Tuesday. So glad that everybody is here with us. And as you're joining, please just pop in the chat and say howdy. Howdy. Oh, nice. There you go. They're already on top of it. So yeah, let us know where you're joining from, what's going on. We've got a really cool session planned for you today. And as people are coming in, I'm going to do a little bit of the background stuff. So what we're going to be talking about is your Renewable Energy Owners Coalition of America, which goes by REOCA. But as we were talking before, this is not something that you expected to have happen. So flashback to when would be a good time, maybe about like when before this even became an idea. Was it maybe 3 years ago, or how long ago?
It happened in 2017. We moved to Pueblo in 2015 looking for a wonderful place to retire. And when we came here,
Colorado.
Pueblo, Colorado, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we like to go RVing, so we wanted a central base where to RV from. And we came to Pueblo and we loved the city and we settled here. And quickly we became involved in community activities. We have a wonderful library here. And Ross launched a TV series, the National Geographic Climate Change series. And that took us about 4 months to engage the community.
Maybe she could tell us a little bit
about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
This is the reason I wanted everybody listening. I'm like, these guys are so great together. So this is let's not do that other stuff. Yeah. So Roz, tell us a little bit about
it was
that.
an interesting trajectory. We came here thinking we were going to travel, and our motorhome has been sitting in a garage for the last 3 years because we've been so active in the community. It started with I think it was October 2016. We saw the Years of Living Dangerously series on National Geographic, and it blew us away. Particularly the first episode was called Race Against Time, and it focused on two communities, one in Florida and one in Nevada, that was having trouble with their investor-owned utility. Fighting the solar industry. So we recognize that as something that was happening here, and that it was really important to show this series to our community before a very important vote was going to take place in Pueblo in February of 2018. Sorry, I started a year too. It was 2017 when the series, right? Mm-hmm. Well, at any rate, whenever the series happened, we arranged with National Geographic. We showed an 8-part series every 2 weeks, all different, as you can imagine, Years of Living Dangerously, everything involving the climate, the environment. And we had speakers from the community at the end of each episode that tried to make the episode relate to Pueblo. And it was a very successful series. And in February of 2018, our city council voted 7-0 to affirm renewable energy for all in Pueblo by 2035. This was the Sierra Club program, Ready for 100. And we were really the first working class community to affirm this. It's really, you should excuse us, but it's easier for Burlington, Vermont, and Aspen. People expect it, San Francisco and places like that. But little Pueblo, this is a feisty town, man, and they wanted to be on the forefront of this. We recognize that our trajectory is changing. We were a steel town, and now we wanted to find a new raison d'etre for Pueblo, and we feel we have 300 days of sunshine here, and it's a perfect community to be the flag. What do you call it? The standard bearer for.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. I remember when that happened, and I was like, "Wait, Pueblo?" Because Pueblo, it was like, "Wait, Pueblo's doing it," and it was like right on because Pueblo's working class kind of steel is the legacy, and so when I heard Pueblo had done it, that inspired, because I was doing some stuff in Longmont, and it was like, hey, Pueblo just did it. So yeah, but
Pueblo is poised to become. Pueblo is poised to become actually the renewable energy capital of the Southwest. Evraz, our steel mill, and Excel Energy have already signed an agreement to put in a huge solar array, solar farm, to power the steel mill and get rid of the two Comanche plants that are coal burning. So we will have cleaner air, hopefully very soon in Pueblo. And the reason that we got involved in this at all was because after the National Geographic series, we thought that we needed to put our money where our mouth was. And so in May of 2017, we went ahead and installed solar panels on our rooftop. And 3 months after that, we get this letter from our investor-owned utility telling us that our rates were going to go up, and she knows the numbers.
Oh, I know the numbers so well. I'm going to repeat them to you right now.
Go for
it. Besides our connect fee that was going to go up 43%, that was one thing. But the big thing that was going to go up was any energy that solar net meter customers needed from the grid was going to go up from, you ready for this? 0.0865 cents per kilowatt hour, let's say 9 cents per kilowatt hour, up to 0.159 cents per kilowatt hour. So from 9 cents to 16 cents, an 83% increase. Now you think, well, solar people, but if they don't really need much energy from the grid, but that's not true. It depends on what you decide to put on your roof. Some people just put enough to defray some of their expenses. So for those people, that increase would have meant that their financial investment was almost useless. We had people coming to us so scared that it would be more cost effective to rip the solar panels off their roof than to keep them. So we had a lot of encouragement to coalesce and figure out a way to fight this. Well, and we were new here, so we really weren't even that well connected. But
let me ask you a quick question. So
sure.
What is your background? So had you done community organizing or anything like that?
Once
How about
before,
Roz?
yes.
Well, we did some community organizing back east, and we were, of course, we're from the generation. I know we look so young, but we are from the '60s generation. When so we've always been activists, but we have a little more time now to be more active than we thought. But we were active with during the Obama administration, making phone calls, that sort of thing. But this is probably the biggest. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I had no desire to start a whole organization from scratch. Believe me, and that's what happened. We were looking for so based on what happened in Florida, as I alluded to, with their investor-owned utility, they wanted to have more right to have solar, and that was denied by their utility. In Nevada, it was overnight, the governor closed down all the incentives for solar. So overnight, solar business just disappeared, really. And we were so fearful of that happening here. Along with what happened, we got to the price increase. So yes. We knew, so we looked in Florida, we looked all over the country for an organization that we could become a chapter of, like the Sierra Club, a chapter of that. There was nothing. There had been an organization in Massachusetts. There had been one in Nevada. I was so excited when I found them, but they were defunct. And I see why. Starting an organization from scratch is a lot of work, but it's very rewarding as well. So should I get into how we formed this, how we made this happen?
She was actually pretty. I would say.
I can't wait to hear the adjective here.
Yeah.
Well,
let's all guess what it's going to be.
Very thorough. What she did was
thorough. That was good.
What she did was we got a hold of a list of solar permits that had been issued by the building authority, the county building authority in the area
from 2010
from 2010 on, and those it had a list of addresses but she had to go through the county assessor's tool to determine who the actual owners of those addresses were. And then we got all those names, and then
we sent out a snail mail postcard because that was the only way to reach these people, because we had nothing except their name and address. We sent out over 1,000 postcards, and believe it or not, well, of course, when people's pocketbooks are involved, you get a good response, and we had over 100 people at our first meeting at the library. And that was the beginning of Ryoka on October 10th, 2017. And I just want to tell you, the name Renewable Energy Owners Coalition of America was not exactly the name we were hoping for. We were hoping for something with solar, sun, but let me warn you, if you ever come up with a good idea, get the name immediately, because with sun, solar, there is not a URL available anywhere.
Ross is talking about domain names.
Domain names,
Yes,
sorry.
so,
I'm not
so
the technical
first
one.
research your domain name availability, and then choose your organization's name.
So this was the best, because we like Ryoka sort of rolls off the tongue. Anyway, but the organization actually has legs. We have a 12-member board of directors. We charge dues. We have solar owner dues, and we have a lot of people that are renewable energy advocates that want to support us but don't have solar yet. We have another due structure for them. We have bylaws. We've been operating for 2.5 years now, and we have 75 paying members and 350 on our mailing list. So we're pretty proud of what we've accomplished here. Totally not planned, believe me, not planned. This was not my ideal retirement, but it's
when I started a nonprofit in an environmental nonprofit in Longmont, and I always say I accidentally started, and that's like right. That sounds like exactly what you're saying. Is like, we thought we were going to retire and cruise around in our RVs, and you've become this community hub. And so also, so what about you, Manny? Like, give us a hint of like what has happened so far. So I think you set the stage that the rates were going up. You guys all came together, and then what happened?
Well, what happened was that in that original meeting where we had 100 people, we actually had them sign a petition, and we collected more than 100 signatures that day, and Governor John Hickenlooper was going to come to a town hall here in Pueblo, and we wanted to present this petition to the governor. So we contacted the governor's office, and the governor's office suggested that rather than having an embarrassing public moment, we should actually have a private audience with the governor. And he was graceful to give us 10 minutes before the town hall to meet privately with us, along with Colorado Energy Office Executive Secretary Kathleen Stacks. And they both listened to us. We presented to them at the meeting a very important paper published by the Brookings Institute called Net Metering is a Net Benefit. And this actual publication served as ammunition for the Public Utilities Commission to deny that rate increase for solar owners that our investor-owned utility wanted to impose on us.
Actually, they wanted to make an entirely different rate class. They wanted to change from RS1, which is everybody who uses energy from the grid that's residential, that's their category. They wanted to make solar net meter customers into RS3. They sort of tried to, they meaning our investor owned utility. I don't want to necessarily use any names, I guess.
No names named.
But their lawyers were in there trying to do this, and very surreptitiously, as it turned out, and the Public Utilities Commission did find that was illegal. So, however, we're still needed, because we heard just as recently as this past March and the July before, the lawyers were back into the PUC trying to get them to reconsider that case. See, and so this paper was really important because it's really hard to measure the value that rooftop solar gives to the grid and to the community, and that's never really been addressed properly. And this paper was so important because 10 different public utility commissions from all over the country, from 10 or 12 different states, all reached the same conclusion in varying degrees that rooftop solar is advantageous to the grid. It saves on wear and tear on the grid. It's also distributed generation to the houses around you. Yeah. There's a lot of value that we don't get credit for. It's easy to say that solar people should pay more, but they don't really consider the value.
Right.
And currently, Pueblo is living a very important moment, historically speaking, because on August 10th of this year, the franchise agreement with our investor-owned utility, the city will have the chance to, actually the voters of Pueblo will have the chance to say, enough of this investor-owned utility, we're going with public power. This is a charter amendment to the city that will transform the Board of Waterworks into a Board of Power and Water. And if the voters choose to go this way, then Riopa will have a lot of work ahead because, for example, presently, there are, with our investor-owned utilities, some of the solar owners have what is called the production-based incentive program, whereby they get paid every year X amount of money, depending on how much production they put out to the grid. If the city decides or the voters decide to get rid of our investor-owned utility, these production-based incentive programs need to be protected by the new by us in front of the new Board of Power and Water. So we have our work cut out for us in the future.
And so I think for everybody listening, like this is really a beautiful example of this creating the world we want. You know, that there were forces saying, okay, let's make solar not a great deal. And you guys came together and said, no, this is the smartest thing that we can be doing. We need to make it easier and better for people. And now, now it's like really opening up if you go to public power. And so again, trying to figure out, you know, what that is. And I just want to clarify real quick. So you had, you guys are based in Pueblo, and you talked about early on where you were trying to become a chapter of some other organization. So I know we have people joining us from, I don't know if people really put in their notes where they're joining us from, but I know we have someone from New York. And so if there's people in other communities that, like yesterday we had people from Florida and we had people from Kosovo and Mexico. So yours is of America. So what other chapters, if there's somebody else that wants to start something like this in their community, what would you recommend? Should they reach out to you, or what are you looking for as far as for expanding, or if you are?
This is
I'm
our
71,
organization is a Colorado. It's registered in Colorado. So it is a Colorado nonprofit. It is not a national nonprofit just yet.
Okay.
If people want to start their own chapters, I would suggest that they should look into forming their own state organization first, and then we can coalesce all together the different state organizations into the national organizations.
That probably would be.
This would be the way for us to grow it. My original vision was that we solar owners could form a collective, an energy production collective that would negotiate with the consumption authorities, let's say in this case the Board of Waterworks or an investor-owned utility. We could negotiate with them the providing energy to them instead of this net metering scenario that is presently the case. What
So
I wanted to do
saying
was
you're like saying let's flip it around. Let's instead of being
let's
the tail at the end of the dog, let's like a cool
let's
plan
Let's
is
be
at the
part of the
Yeah.
solution. Exactly.
because what happens is, for example, in the case of our investor-owned utility, they have now a plan. They want to ramp up quickly to renewables too, but their plan is to build a 2 megawatt solar farm away from Pueblo, not in the city or not in the county, and then that will require a transmission line to bring all those electrons from the solar panels to where they are consumed. This investment is about $2 a watt. A 2 megawatt solar array would cost about, well, figure it out, about $2 million. Is that right? Am I right?
I don't know where you got the $2.
The $2 a watt. It's 2 megawatts, so megawatts is million.
It doesn't matter.
Million,
Anyway,
right?
it's a huge cost that is going to be footed by the ratepayers. That's the model of investor-owned utilities.
Make sure that people know that's how they make their money, is building things and tearing them down. Right?
No, building things and then acquiring that value as capital value for their shareholders, and letting the ratepayers pay for those investments. This is what happened previously with the Pueblo Airport gas generating station, PAGS. That generating station is used maybe once or twice a year, and it's a very costly investment that our investor-owned utility did, because they argued that in peak hours they needed to have the ability to produce that power. And that cost originally $8 million, and they wanted to slap that $8 million rate increase onto the Pueblo ratepayers, and that caused such a big uproar here that the Public Utilities Commission had to come to Pueblo and have a hearing here in Pueblo, and people from faith communities and from all over the place.
We had 600 people at that meeting.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
600. Yeah.
Right.
So
And
it's a big deal.
Yeah. And I want to kind of wrap some of this up because basically what I wanted to share with everybody that's listening is, their story of how here they were, okay, we're going to retire, we're going to be cruising around in RV, and just looking at kind of the process that they went through. And this is called the process of change. So like when I'm coaching people who want to quit smoking, you start, the first place there is pre-contemplative, like, what problem? I don't have a problem. And then they get to the contemplative of like, oh man, I think there's a problem. So that's like kind of the years of living dangerously. Then to action. Let's put solar on our own house, and starting with personal action. And then seeing this, the forces that be, and then going, well, how are we going to deal with them? We can't do it alone. You form a team, you bring people together, and then as you have that consolidated message, then they're meeting with the governor. These guys that thought they were going to be camping, drinking coffee and watching the grizzly bears, are now meeting with the governor and influencing their policy and leading to this next level. I mean, I think you guys definitely had a foot in this, leading to this next level of going from investor owned to now maybe public owned. And then how do you turn things, because the cool thing about right now is everything's upside down. And so the ideas that you had 2 months ago might have seemed like impossible. And so what you're talking about now, it's like, well, we just shut everything down. So if we start it back up in a new way, what could that be? So I want to just mention that, so on their presenter page, we're going to update and get their really super cool Know Before You Go Solar presentation that has all kinds of animations and really walks you through all of those details. And
could I just
yes, Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah.
I just wanted to say one thing. All this our mission is to protect and promote solar, right? So
Mhm.
we're busy protecting over here, but we also found a niche, and that's what we wanted to present to you all today, a program called Know Before You Go Solar. But that's what Joan is referring to. You're going to get to see that whole presentation,
Right.
and this you got the extra of knowing how that started.
And the most important part of this presentation, for those who cannot afford to go solar, but want to lower their carbon footprint and save money, is the handout that we have provided, the Colorado Home Energy Guide. It will teach you how to save money hardly without any expenses at all.
You'll really be, there's a lot of free stuff out there, and there's a lot of ways of saving money, and this situation with COVID really brought that home, that everybody can make a difference now. We see the air is cleaner, man. We got to keep that going. And this
Yeah.
booklet, usually things like this are not very useful. Please download this one. It's a great guide. It's from the Colorado State University Energy Office.
And I also put a link to that on your presenter page.
Great.
So that'll be there.
Great.
And so we'll hopefully have a few more minutes for some questions at the end. I know there's lots of people that have questions. We can continue the discussion in the Facebook group. So, we do our Facebook lives at an hour before the happy hour. So that is 8 p.m. Eastern time or 6 p.m. Mountain.
Hello, we are Ross and Manny Delizarriturri, founders of the Renewable Energy Owners Coalition of America, a group of solar owners and renewable energy advocates.
Welcome to Know Before You Go Solar. We are here to help you go solar the right way.
Let's start at the beginning with the energy pyramid. Number 5 is where your solar panels come in.
But what about 1 to 4? Most people ignore these steps and go right for the solar. But if you go step by step, chances are you will save a lot of money.
Have an energy audit done. This analysis will tell you what energy issues your house has. After all doors and windows have been closed to seal the house as much as possible, an energy auditor may use a blower door that will force air through your home's leaking spots.
Energy conservation doesn't cost you a dime. It is more of a change in behavior, like doing laundry with cold water, or turning off the lights when you're leaving a room, or only running your dishwasher when it's full.
Energy efficiency. When old appliances die, buy new energy efficient ones. If you need to replace your water heater, consider a heat pump.
Be aware of the time of day you do things that require a lot of energy, like using your clothes dryer or plugging in your electric vehicle. Try to avoid doing those things during peak usage, like when you get home from work, when everyone else is doing the same thing too, between 4 and 9.
Now you're ready to install solar panels.
Let's take a closer look at what an energy audit can provide. Usually, the highest energy cost in the home comes from heating it in the winter and cooling it in the summer. An energy auditor uses thermal imaging to detect areas in the home that have leaks. Typical leakage areas are embedded light fixtures and attic access traps, for example.
The energy audit report will give you an overview of the areas in your home that need improvement.
2 of the most cost-effective energy conservation measures you can take are setting your thermostat correctly and upgrading your lighting from incandescent bulbs to LED bulbs.
Look for rebates offered by your utility. There will be a wealth of information on how to save money through energy conservation techniques, as well as a host of energy efficiency rebates.
In Pueblo, the San Isabel Electric Association's list is expansive and impressive. Everything from rebates on Energy Star appliances to insulation upgrades, to money back for buying an EV and installing a home charging station.
If you are a homeowner interested in going solar, you can find out if your home is right for solar with Google's Project Sunroof.
Just enter your address and your average monthly electric bill, and Project Sunroof will do some initial calculations for you.
The yellow roof areas have high solar exposure. The purple roof areas have low solar exposure. If you live in a condo or apartment, or if your home is not well suited for rooftop solar, there are other alternatives available to you, such as community solar.
Contact your local utility to find out how you can participate in community solar.
So, when a solar salesman comes knocking on your door, ask these questions.
How long have you been in business? Are you licensed to do business in my state? Do you have a local office in my town?
As with any major home improvement project, purchasing from the right installer or contractor is every bit as important as the product that you're purchasing. Get a list of references and call them.
Be wary of any really low bids. That's why getting 3 bids will give you a better idea of what to expect, and get the guarantee and every interaction in writing.
Are there any issues that I need to address before installing solar? Is my roof okay? Are there too many trees?
Does the bid include the total cost of the project, material, and labor?
What happens if there are unforeseen problems? For example, one of Ryoka's members had a service call and was charged for travel time when the supplier had advertised itself as a local.
Does the bid include a time frame? In jobs that take too long, you may wind up still paying for your electric bill and your finance bill from the solar installation. Find out who pays for the double billing. Are your installers NABCEP certified? The North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, NABCEP, is the most respected, well-established, and widely recognized national certification organization for professionals in the field of renewable energy.
NABCEP is the only certification program with an enforceable code of ethics holding unethical installers accountable. Having NABCEP certified professionals on the job will ensure a sense of confidence.
Will there be a master electrician on the job? A master electrician must be on site to make all the electrical connections.
A federal tax credit for your solar installation is available in some cases. You must pay enough federal taxes to be eligible for the tax credit.
Federal tax credits are still substantial for 2020 and 2021. If you qualify, you can save 26% if you install solar in 2020. On a $30,000 installation, that is a savings of $7,800.
Contractors may use confusing terms. This is a tax credit, not a rebate. If you don't make enough money to pay federal taxes, the solar tax credit will not apply.
Contractors almost always give you the bid assuming that you will get the tax credit. Ask to see the bid both ways, with the tax credit and without it.
A rooftop solar system is a big investment. Even if you do not usually go to an accountant, it might be a good idea to do it this time.
Get everything, every interaction in writing. So today we're with Judy Knight, a Ryoka member. Good afternoon, Judy.
Hi.
Hi. I met Judy because Judy had massive problems with her solar company, and Black Hills Energy sent her to us to try to help her. So thank you for doing this today with us, Judy, to help somebody else avoid some of the problems you had. First, I hope so too. First, what kind of tax credit did the contractor tell you to expect?
Well, the way it was explained to me was a rebate, 30% of the cost of the solar, and I would get that back at the end of tax season. And that didn't work out that way. They told me my payments would be $144 a month, but they didn't tell me that I would have to take that money and turn around and put it on the loan. But I couldn't get that money anyway because I don't owe that amount to be able to get the tax credit. So I got nothing.
Okay. And this is a problem with many companies. They tell you, you assume you're going to get the tax credit, but they called it a tax
rebate.
Okay, so misinformation.
Yes.
Would you have gone solar if you were not going to receive that tax credit?
Well, no, because they told me my payments would be $144 a month. Without that tax credit, my payments are actually going to be over $200 a month. So, probably not.
Before you started your project, I know you told me you asked if your house was okay the way it was for a solar installation. And did that turn out to be the case?
No. My breaker box was not correct. Cost me $200 to get that fixed. They told me I would have to move the meter outside at a cost of $2,500. And I refused to do it because they told me it was okay. Well, Black Hills got involved in it and found somebody that would do it for $1,500, and then the solar company said they would pay half. So I agreed to do it. So it cost me $1,500 to move it, and I eventually got half of it back.
But that took quite a while from what I remember.
Took quite a while. That's where the meter used to be. And they said it couldn't be in this room because it was enclosed, but the room was here when I bought the house 33 years ago. Mark Eastland from Black Hills got involved in the moving of the meter inside. And so the meter that was in that room we were just in is now this meter right here.
So what happened when they installed the solar meter?
Well, they installed it behind some bushes that I had out there. And when the inspector came, he said that the bushes would have to come down.
Okay, so what other billing issues did you have with this company?
Well, it took 7 months for the solar to actually be set up and running. And in that amount of time, I was paying interest to the finance company and paying my solar bills, my bills to Black Hills Energy. So I was basically double paying bills for 7 months. Well, they told me they would pay back the first 6 months of payments to the finance company. And they weren't doing it. And then I got put in contact with you, and you got involved, and I did get back that money.
So what impressed me, Judy, as we were going back and forth with your solar company, it impressed me that you had all your emails, you had all the proof of all these things we've discussed today had happened to you. So what advice would you give to someone that was going to install solar?
Well, I would say check out probably at least 3 different companies and really talk to them and find out what their price is, what you're going to get. Get everything in writing, because I did get everything in writing. And then you can decide if you want to do it or not, because what I was told didn't end up being the right.
No, you mentioned to me that a neighbor asked you about going solar, and what did you advise your neighbor?
I told him, if you're really seriously thinking about going solar, to do it locally. Find somebody here in Pueblo.
Oh, you did not use a local installer?
No, the people I went through were from out of state even.
Okay, and they had no local presence?
No.
What about the misinformation about the tax credit? What would you advise people to do about that when they're told?
I would say go to an accountant and find out if you're really going to be able to get that tax credit, because I just took their word for it. I didn't realize it was going to be a tax credit and that I was not going to be eligible for it because I didn't owe that kind of money.
Exactly. That's perfect. Well, Judy, thank you so much. I'm really hoping that the things, I'm sorry for what's happened to you, but I'm hoping that those things will help someone else.
I hope so.
A monitoring app can help detect problems in your solar system's performance. It offers information about energy consumption and generation and possible malfunctions of your solar system.
During our solar system's lifetime so far, Manny and I have avoided 27.9 tons of CO2 emissions.
Here is one of the many kinds of data available on the Solar Edge app. Each year is shown month by month, so you can see if there are any major deviations. For example, the month of April shows major variations from one year to the next, pointing out an issue that might need to be addressed.
Some inverter companies provide apps that give very detailed information on their solar system. Enphase, for example, can monitor each panel individually.
We'll finish this presentation showing you a living example of knowing before going solar.
Sheldon Braun, a Ryoka board member, did everything correctly right from the beginning and saved a ton of money.
Hi, we're here with Sheldon Braun, a Ryoka member, and Sheldon is a wonderful example of doing solar the right way. Sheldon, why don't you tell us about the first thing that you did when you decided that you wanted to go solar?
Go and get 3 estimates.
And how long have you had solar panels on your home?
We put it almost a year. I called up Black Hills and they offered a free energy audit, and so I went and did that. After the audit, Black Hills offered me to re-insulate my attic, to add more insulation onto my attic to bring the value up to R38. It's the 600 square feet right in the living room and kitchen area. I rented a machine and got the installation myself.
And how about your appliances? Did you do anything about them?
The refrigerator, when we moved in over here, it was a 26 cubic foot double door refrigerator that seemed to run all the time, even though it was 5 years old. So we went and replaced it with this energy efficient one. This is a 21 cubic foot, and it's plenty big for my wife and I, and it costs $48 a year to run. This is one of those heat pump water heaters. To run this thing a whole year is $114. The propane tank that I replaced this with had a sticker that says it costs $634 to run. This is one of those no energy efficient washer and dryers. This costs about $21 a year to run, and it saves about 2,000 gallons of water a year also.
I've been aware that Black Hills Energy had rebates available, but frankly, I've never met someone that's taken advantage of so many. Give us a rundown of what you've saved with those rebates.
Well, for my HVAC system, because I have a SEER 19 air conditioner, and then the furnace is really high efficiency, I got $650 back for that. I got $500 back for the water heater, and I got $224 back for the insulation I put in the attic.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a nice savings. Right now in my attic, it's 114 degrees. I try to use passive solar to heat my house as much as I can. So what I do is I have a fan attached to a vent that goes down into my basement, and can turn the switch on, and right now I'm bringing that 114 degree air down into my basement. Anytime it's really sunny and it's about 50 degrees during the winter time, it gets above 100 degrees in the attic, and I'm just recouping some of that heat that the sun gives us. Here's where the hot air comes out. I haven't put the vent on yet, but you can feel, I can feel that the air is nice and warm down here. It'll raise it. It's 62 degrees right now in the basement, but it'll probably, if I leave them on for 4 hours, it'll raise it up to 65 or 66 degrees down here. And it heats up the concrete floor and the concrete walls in here. Also, another thing I do is all my electronics, I unplug it. These power strips are really nice to do that. You can do it all at once. And then also all my lighting in here is LED lighting.
Okay. So, Sheldon, tell me, do you think that the different improvements that you made meant that you needed less solar panels?
There's 12 panels on the roof, and originally there was going to be 20. And I've went through the whole year without having to pay an electric bill besides my customer one, $9.13.
That's excellent, even in the winter time.
Even in the winter.
How big is your house?
It's 1,300 square feet on the first floor, and then I have a finished basement, but we don't really heat it during the winter time. It's just the upstairs that we live in most of the time.
So you think your electric bills would have been $1,500 just for the second floor?
Well, all the utilities altogether would have probably been about $1,500.
Wow, big savings.
And now we'll be happy to take some questions.
All right. So if you guys have any other questions in the chat, I know that we had some more questions for Roz and Manny. We had some questions around solar, where people were asking, is there a cut and dried answer in your opinion? And I've thought about this a lot too. But is there a cut and dried answer in your opinion about rooftop solar compared to, someone here was sharing the link to Jack's solar garden. So community solar, so there's rooftop solar, community solar, and utility owned solar. I think that would be maybe 3 ways to put it. Do you have an opinion of which one is best? Is there
it depends on people's personal circumstances. If you have a home that is perfectly oriented for rooftop solar and you have the economic means to go ahead and install rooftop solar on your home, that's one way. If you live in an apartment, you can opt to go with community solar, and how that would work is you can probably explain better than I can.
Well, it's usually, and at least in our case down here in Pueblo, actually mandated. There's certain proportion that our investor-owned utility has to put up of community-run gardens, and you can either purchase a couple panels in that garden, or usually people, you do have to qualify though usually, and that's unfortunately one of the problems, is often people with less economic means want to get involved, but then they can't. The credit issue becomes, so that's one of the things that's come out of this COVID-19. I really do want to figure out a way that more people can take advantage of solar. About 45% of the population actually can't have, for one reason or another, either their home is not positioned, or they have too many trees, or they live in an apartment, or they don't have the economic means, that rooftop solar really isn't a good option for them. And so community garden might be the right way to go. So they really need to find out. It's very localized how those programs are run. But in Colorado, we're very fortunate to have a nonprofit called Grid Alternatives. You're probably familiar with them, Joan. They go into communities. In fact, they won 2 of the bids with our investor-owned utility down here for a 500 megawatt project and a 2 kilowatt project that's going to, that's 65% of it has to be leased to
low income
population. So that's like really huge. And part of what they do, Grid, is they also train local people, hopefully even living in that development. And here the housing authority is taking part with Grid Alternatives in taking advantage of this leasing opportunity. And so people that are living in one of the housing authority buildings can be trained and get paid to learn how to install solar. So it's really cool. And Grid, and we're lucky in Colorado because Grid is only in about 5 or 6 states. So we're one of them. So
they are strong here in Colorado.
Yeah,
they're doing a lot of work here in Colorado.
They're truly leaders. So does that answer the question? Okay.
Yeah, I think that was good. And I think the, you also kind of touched on the inequity. And I think that's another big piece of what everybody has mentioned here is, the world as we know it, it's very unjust. The injustice, the income inequality, how that has really snowballed in the last few decades. I mean, I would be really curious to see, we talked about the numbers of deaths from COVID, but the number of deaths of asthma and diabetes and a lot of the inequities, the diseases that hit people as you get lower and lower in your socioeconomic, or if you're in a Black or brown community near pollution.
Exactly.
So I think that is one of the big things that the environmental movement is kind of waking up to. I think that trying to start with these little projects at the top, that's not going to be where it is. It really needs to go.
I think this COVID-19 pandemic has created a big opportunity for people at the grassroots to take back control of their lives, starting with demanding a rightful minimum wage so that families can survive in a dignified manner.
What is it?
Yeah.
So we need to all do our part now to reinvent ourselves in a different way. If we go back to business as usual, which is what the establishment would like to happen, we're not going to go into sustainability. We're going to go into a spiral of consumption and degradation of the planet. We cannot afford that.
Yeah.
I put a question up there for Jasmine. Pueblo is, as you know, in dire need of, we don't even have mandatory recycling, okay, here, because the taxes are so low here. I guess the city can't really afford that. So you have to pay. So we pay for our own recycle. We pay for our own trash. That's not part of what comes out of. I've never lived any place where that was the case. And we went to. That was the first thing I started trying to do here with the Sierra Club. Is what, you don't have recycling? How's that possible? We went to the health department, and it's really tightly controlled down here by, powers way beyond my wanting to get my knees broken. We have like 9 trash companies here, all fighting for 130,000 people. So you can imagine, it's really, and they don't want recycling at all.
We see trash trucks going through our alleys every day, a different company.
So that's a whole issue. I could find people to help work on that here, but I got to put you in and composting, all that. We would love to do that. I'm going to see if we can connect you with some people down here, Jasmine, because would you be willing to help people start trying to figure it out down here, or is that way beyond what you could offer?
Reach out.
Yeah, I would definitely love to set up like a Zoom meeting with your group, or of just some people that are passionate and want to see the same thing.
Yeah.
Again, this goes back to the community organizing model. That model can be used for any issue anywhere. And organizing around a better waste system is definitely one of those things. And I hear you. My parents live in Littleton, and we have the same thing. So that kind of system is called an open market, where any waste provider can come in and provide waste to anyone who wants it in the city. So in Littleton, within a 10-minute walk of my parents' house, there are 10 different trash companies going up and down the streets. Every day is trash day. And it's, I mean, normally people pay for their waste services. Denver is just a very special, like, last 3 cities in the entire nation that offers trash paid for by taxes.
That's
so
not
that's
that.
not normally the case. Most cases, people pay for their own trash services and recycling services. But you can definitely start to organize within your networks with like-minded people that want to have mandatory recycling. I've actually spoken with Leroy Garcia, who's the senator for Pueblo. He asked me, what is Pueblo's recycling rate? I looked into it, and Pueblo doesn't even have a recycling rate because the city doesn't gather that data. They are not requiring those different waste providers to tell them how much they sent to the landfill versus how much they sent to the recycling center. And forget about composting. If they don't want to recycle, they're not going to want to compost either. So I know that there is one city staff person that's very interested in getting mandatory recycling as well. But of course, there's a certain partnership that has to happen between the city, the people that work for the city, and the public, because they need each other to show that, hey, this is what the people want, and here's the support, and you, the people, need the support from the city staff as well. The people at power, the people that have the power to change things.
You know, I'm surprised to hear. I thought 2 years ago they did have that a survey of the trash to see exactly what you're saying, like how much of the trash could have been recycled. They were supposed to have that study done. I'm surprised from what you're saying about Leroy. It sounds like that wasn't the case, that they don't know. Anyway, I can put together 5 leaders.
Maybe it's changed.
Okay, but let me put together 5 leaders, and we'll put together something. Not with Manny.
Zoom meeting with you.
Yeah. I don't know that Manny and I want to take that on, but we can. We know people that would be interested in talking at least.
This is so cool, and I put in the chat Citizens Alliance for Sustainable Inglewood. This is a group that is working to make this change in Inglewood. Arvada, Yasmina was saying, is also doing it. But in every case, they're following that exact same model that we're all talking about. The one that I say is like, start a team. You know, if you're frustrated with something, start a team. And then as your team, you know, maybe you become the core team, or maybe some of those people don't really want to be the core. They want to be just the one that shows up wearing the green shirt. But, you know, if you get together, so that's what I've realized, is that it's our responsibility, that we own the government. It's not the other way around. It's our government. Like, we're the owners, but we have to tell them what to do. And Keith, did you have any kind of last observation? I thought was interesting what you guys had done is you really took that sustainability of the whole neighborhood into account, like with your Takeout Tuesday. We all know that, takeout does actually have more, more trash.
Right.
And at the moment, most restaurants aren't allowing you to bring your own container for obvious reasons. But I think, that was an interesting decision and well thought out to say, well, we need to make sure that we're not ignoring people, because I think that's a lot of what has happened in the environmental movement is, save the whales. It's like, but we don't care if you're, as a family, are struggling to feed yourself. Like, it has to be this integrated approach. So did you have any kind of last?
Yeah, I just think that our kind of approach in all of this is to use this time to make connections that we can go back to these businesses later and say, hey, what do you think about joining the city's certifiably green business program? Or, we're getting together local businesses to support a rooftop garden in our community. Would you like to be involved? And things like that. So I think, if we're trying to solve problems for businesses, community members, and groups now, I think we want to just make sure that, down the road, when we come back and ask, hey, can you help us solve this other problem? Those relationships will already be built.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something besides also commending you on the great job you're doing, because what Keith just mentioned is now available worldwide with this COVID pandemic. Now we're all a global village, a real global village, cybernetic global village. And this is a great opportunity for us to keep connected. And what I wanted to ask is whether these webinars will be available on demand later for people who were not able to join us at the present moment.
Excellent question. I feel like that was a plant. I should have asked you to ask me that question.
Well done.
Good one. Yes, they definitely will be. So anybody that signs up for the Earth Week Summit now, they get access to all the recordings through April 20th. And then if it's after that, then they can get the whole Earth Week Summit package by purchasing that pass. But if they get on now, you can see all of the past workshops. Like if you missed the one with the Indigenous Women's Panel or Hip Hop Forestry or the interview with with Nancy Bristow, who wrote about the American pandemic, any of those, anybody can get on and see those through April 20th.
Great.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. And so we'll be in the Facebook group at the Green Team Cafe. So if people have questions, you can leave them there. Tonight is when we're doing the affordable housing and the aging in place. Again, looking at what are the special opportunities, and Susan Wright is going to be leading that. She's been an architect for a long time, gone through lots of recessions, and sees there's certain things that you could be doing now that are going to make a difference when some of that stimulus money comes through, and how to get yourself set up so that we, as the ones who want this certain kind of world, are the ones making these decisions. So it has a lot to do with how we get prepared right now. So really happy to be bumping into you everywhere. And with that, thank you so much, Jasmine. Thanks, Keith. Thank you so much, Roz and Manny. And really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jude. Really, Joan, this has been wonderful. Thank you.
And thanks everybody who joined us today, and looking forward to bumping into you soon.